Hello ladies and gents, it's time for another Pugwatch. Now this one is, I'll warn you in advance, far longer than my usual ones. It's a grand total of about 40 minutes. The reason being, Halls of Origination is an instance that takes roughly an hour and a half to run if you aren't running it at 300% speed. Now granted, I do take a little bit longer here as I explain the pools because a lot of the people in the party haven't been here before. But this guide pretty much is going to cover some of the packs that are a little bit more awkward and all the bosses. There are about 9 in total. Now this first pack, the guy at the back, I've said DPS him down. This is why. His Rain of Fire is a pain in the backside. I believe these guys are immune to crowd control and stuns and everything else, but their counterparts aren't. So stun or control the little guys at the beginning, take out the big guy. I've been in a group where we've done it in reverse. We've taken out the little guys first and just let the big guy Rain of Fire and just dodge around it, but it's more hassle for everybody. So take down the big guys, then take down the little guys. Drag them out of those little healing circles. They don't do a lot of healing, but it's good practice. In Heroic they do heal for quite a lot. Now this next part, at the top of the stairs, you can either go left or right. The key choice is to go right because the route you want is again right at the top of the ramp. The other patrol, they walk back and forth, the two patrols. If you go down the right hand side one, kill the patrol, you can then take the right hand corner at the top, no problems. You can completely ignore the left hand patrol. Obviously if you're corpse running, just keep an eye out for it. Now I've had some people say crowd control isn't a necessity and some people say that it is. In this instance particularly, I would recommend it, especially if you can do it properly. Like here we had a mage sheep and a rogue sap. I eventually got the mage into the habit of sheeping the moment the rogue had sapped. If I told the rogue to sap, then it meant that I was going to start pulling. So I let the rogue sap the mage sheep, shove a holy shield down their, shove an Avenger's shield down their throat. Avenger's shield doesn't bounce to control targets, so you can use it as much as you like in a group like that. Holy Wrath on the other hand does bounce to other targets if they're close enough, so I have to drag them back. Nothing special about these two guys here. I asked them to crowd control the moon. It's a caster and it does do a little healy circle, so it's best just to crowd control it and then blow down its melee counterpart, then blow down the caster. Again, drag it out the healy circles. I didn't notice it healing the guys currently stood in it, so could be a 50-50 on that one. Now this guy you'll need 2 volunteers from your group. One is going to have to jump to the left, one is going to have to jump to the right. What will happen is when you engage the boss, he's a tank and spank until he pops his shield. Once he pops his shield, the designated people, one jumps to the left, you can see a pillar just out the corner of the shot. One of them, a lever will appear there, they need to jump down, pull the lever there. The other one does the right hand side, jump down, pull the lever, then run all the way back up. When they're down there, it's probably easier for the healer not to focus too much on healing them. When the shield goes up, if you're a priest, bubble them. If you're a druid, stick a renew or rejuvenate on it. A renew or a rejuvenate, sorry, if I get my words in order. Once you've done that, that's it. You're going to just have to wait for them to run back up. Once they're back up, you will probably have snake aggro, so with the snakes, just run into your tank. He'll pull them off you. Don't be too hesitant about waiting around because they do a fair bit of damage if they stack up. As you'll see here anyway, I'll talk you through anything specific I do as this fight progresses. You can see the pillars sat either side of there now. They're in the sand. I'm not sure whether the levers appear on top or just behind them, but if you can land on them it will reduce full damage you take. Anyway, once everyone was happy with that, I then pulled the guy with the Avenger's shield. As I said, simple case of tanking and spanking this boss mainly. This bit is easy. He does randomly turn around and focus on other people and you can't interrupt it, so you just let him do that. I've not been hit by the fire before, but DPS do need to just be aware of it and move out of it. I didn't drag him here. I could have done a lot better and dragged him out of the fire, but it didn't matter because he did his bubble next anyway. Now this is the bubble. As you can see, it's non-interruptible. He's channeling a massive cast. I'm not too sure what the cast does when he channels it, whether it's a heal or something like that, whether it's just to keep him safe. but the best thing to do is get those levers down, DPS him enough, and it'll break his cast channel. Now as you notice that I didn't move out the fire very quickly, I was a bit lax, too busy typing to everybody else. Not really an excuse, so I should have moved. Here it comes again, fire. I'm a bit quicker that time, out of the way. Now one thing that I've not gotten used to doing for a while is actually positioning mobs so that the DPS can get behind them, so when he does do fire and it's behind him I should be pulling him forward, etc, etc. As you notice there, the shaman was a little bit too slow to step out of the fire. Sorry, not the shaman, the priest was a little bit too slow to step out of the fire, but she was healing everybody, so again you can let that slide. Again, here's the bubble again, and there go the levers. As you can see, he's still channeling his hymn or whatever it is there, and after enough damage he stops channeling it, breaks it. Now anyone who's watched any of my previous videos know that I have a tendency to conserve holy power more than spend it, so I'm trying consciously in a lot of instances now to spend it as quickly as possible, although here I was saving up for a Divine Plea cooldown. My plan was to use Divine Plea to do a fair whack of damage, and yes, the video did just skip there. It happened to me a couple of times in this run, it just froze and then resumed, I'm not too sure why, but all it was just blew him down through the last couple of bits of health he had. Everyone I've been with in this instance so far finds it the best one graphically, and sort of pool wise it's quite a lot of concentration required. Now I made a mistake, I thought this tunnel was somewhere else, and I'll show you the other tunnel I thought it was later. Because I made that mistake, people suffered, we had a bad pull, and we tried to crowd control while I was tanking and it just didn't work. So I've popped my Guardian of Ancient Kings there. You'll see that happen a lot in the videos because, to be fair, it's a 50% damage reduction on a 3-minute cooldown. It's any kind of, oh hang on, this is a bit hard hitting or anything like that. It's one of those things where it's not too bad to use on pulls. 3-minute cooldown is enough to use, not every pull, but on those ones where something goes horribly wrong like that one there. It's also great for bosses, although the last 4 bosses you'll see why it's not as good. I have to try and time it right, although saying that, by the time you've done the trash and got the boss it's normally been about 3 or so minutes. Now this leads down into the Maker's Rise. There is an elevator here, but I would advise not triggering it till you've done the other bosses. The only reason for that is that people get confused by the fact it's an elevator and it goes up and it doesn't look like that, so you'll see it as we come back to it. This is the way that I run this instance. There are other ways of doing it though, it's non-linear. At least as far as I figured out, it's not linear. Now these guys ambush whoever is front, so if your tank is not in front and you run out, expect to get beaten by an elite bug. If the tank isn't on his feet, or is, as I have been in one of my instance runs of this, I've been waiting for the priest to drink, someone pulled it and died. This next one includes a skeleton, which is great because Holy Wrath stuns that instantly. So yeah, with this bit here, let your tank go first. If your tank goes first, problem solved. And if you're not watching your tank and you rush off and you die, your fault, not the tank's. I could have been a bit quicker there telling them to wait, but I was hoping they were keeping an eye on the bars. What had happened is the priest was on about half mana, and I thought just to be a bit safe, because I know this one can sometimes get a bit messy, I'd let her drink up, and the rogue ran forward and pulled instead, so I just yanked off him as quick as I could. There was no particular reason for stopping for a mana break there, other than I thought the priest was a bit low, and also at this point in time I wasn't too used to how quickly healers run out of mana. So rather than err on the side of reckless advance, which we used to do in Wrath, it's waiting and just going, yeah, do you want a drink now while we've got a second? I had a few people compliment me on the fact that I do that. A lot of people kind of don't stop and wait, just rush off like it's still Wrath the Lich King and end up dying because they didn't realise the priest was out of mana. I have a friend actually, Kyria, who you may remember, who plays a priest, and she tends to get a lot of grief because she's not constantly regenerating mana, and to me that's not fair on any priest. They can't generate the kind of mana required. That pull there, I completely forgot priest could shackle, so what I did is I just pulled them both together, but because of the shackle the skeleton generated massive aggro. The mage was pretty on the ball with his Circle of Frost, trapped everything in it, not a problem. So yeah, remember the forms of crowd control. Mages can sheep, rogues can sap, priests can shackle, shamans can hex, shamans can also bind elementals, which is a good one as well. It works just like shackle. And on this one you can ride the camels as well. I'm sure most people have seen this if you watch any of the other videos of these instances. You can fight while on the back of the camel as well. Now what happened here is the mage didn't shoot the right target. Despite the great big circle above its head, he managed to somehow target the wrong thing and then cause enough damage so it would keep running around after him. So in the end I just picked it up. I'm not sure if there's an achievement or not for doing this on the camels, but we just found it hilarious. And then they died. Now this guy here is just Lord Marigar without the voice emotes, and a slightly different colour scheme. He's very easy. I would say it's a burn fight, but it's not. There is a second section to it, which you'll see in a minute, and the mage is going to trigger time warp for us for the Bloodlust style boost. Now the reason I've said focus the ads is because halfway through this fight he flops to the ground, becomes a pile of bones, and summons bone warriors at you. You want to be quick in picking them up because they hit hard, so pop a skull over one, focus everybody on that, and just pop the skull over the next one, over the next one. I've actually got my taunt, I can't remember what it's called, a Hand of Reckoning I think it is, over skull at macro, so the moment I hit taunt it'll mark it with a skull. I tend to use Righteous Defense and Shield, Avenger's Shield if I want to grab something's attention quicker than that. Shield of the Righteous is also quite good if I've got 3 Holy Power and I'm close enough to slap it with it. He does the pillars, but he doesn't impale people on pillars. This is normal mode, by the way. He doesn't impale people on pillars or anything like that. I don't know if it's different in heroic. He does do that flame strike where you can't really do much about it, you've just got to eat it. And then once the ground starts shaking, here come the skeletons. I was a little bit slow on the uptake there, but it's pretty much grab them, make sure they stay off everybody else. Grab the bugs, although they're easy to go down. It's the skeletons that really hit hard. You've got to make sure you get those skeletons off of anyone else. Again, this mage is Circle of Frost. I absolutely love that move. Used right, Circle of Frost is brilliant. Used wrong, it's more of a hindrance than anything else, but I've yet to meet a mage who's used it in a way that's really scuppered it. It's usually just to save their own hide, but this guy's pretty much putting it to save everybody. Also, watch out for the quicksand. It does damage over time if you fall in it and slows your movement speed. And it does hit quite hard, as you'll see in a second. I accidentally stepped through it. Other than that, the basics of this fight is tank, spank, kill the ads, go back to tank and spank again. And just avoid the quicksand unless you're me. Straight through the middle of it. As you see, the mage popped time warp on the second phase. The moment he comes back up, brilliant place to use it, because it's just burning him right the way down with the rest of his health. And you can get some absolutely insane crits here if you've got time warp plus Hammer of Wrath plus everything else that a paladin has. It's just complete aggro generation. As you can see, I took a fair bit of damage running through the sand, which made the priest job a bit harder, which is never something I want to do. It did drop a tanking shield, but I'm not that interested in it. I've got the one for 950 justice points. Don't ask me the name, I can't remember, but if you have a look at my armory profile, it's just Aldinas, A-L-D-I-N-A-S. You can see what I'm carrying there. I'm normally always in my tanking gear. Once you've beaten him, if you continue up and through, there's this teleporter here. You just right click on it and teleport it back to the Maker's Rise. Now, there is, as you've seen, so as you come in, we've gone right, we've done the right hand passage. There's the elevator, and then there's now the left hand one, which is here. Again, it's another one of these funny pools where you've got too many things, or too many hard hitting things, and you don't want to leave them around. So I've got sheep on moon, sap on star. The idea being the moment the rogue saps, the mage is going to sheep. As you can see, they're perfectly executed opening. The sap and the star are still in the background, and we've got the hold of the big guy who we need to beat down as quickly as possible. Again, the Ring of Light, drag them out of it. If it's a Ring of Green, you're fine if you've got a Druid healer about. The Ring of Light, though, does heal them, so you need to get them out of it as quickly as possible. This was my mistake here. I picked up the wrong one. I should have instantly picked up the star. Good old-fashioned kill order has always been the sheep is last, because a mage can keep resheeping it. And then I screwed it up, so this is how you fix that. You take them both out at once. Now, this next part, if memory serves me, is a little event with Bran. Yeah, here we go. Talk to Bran, make sure everyone hands a question before you do this, and then talk to him to open the door. Now, the Vault of Lights is an interesting one. The trogs constantly respawn, so the idea is you kill them, move on. There are 4 elementals guarding this place. You've got fire, ice, earth, and air. No, wait, that's not right. It's fire, water, earth, and air. It's the 4 primal elements, whatever you want to call it. Now the fire one, pretty straightforward. He does channel this Inferno, Raging Inferno. When you see him channeling it up, move away from him. As you see, I don't, and I take quite a bit of hitting. It only lasts for a couple of seconds, so it may not be worth dodging it if your healer feels confident enough to heal it or they've got enough mana. But again, in Heroic, that's probably going to get ramped up to something insane, kill you instantly. Now, the Trogs, again, as I said, will keep respawning, so you just got to fight your way through them, go back, fight your way through, go back. Once you've killed this lot, the other one over there is going to come in as well. I think I throw my shield at it to pick it up on purpose so it doesn't accidentally go nuts. Most of them are weak. There's a couple of elites inside the pack, so but they're all pretty easy to kill. This guy's the water elemental, and he traps you in a bubble. Now melee DPS must burst that bubble. You can't burst it if you've got mages or anything else. Their ranged won't burst a bubble. They can run up and hit it. If you haven't got any melee, they just have to run over and clonk you. But it's interesting, because you've got to keep your eye out for it. When it appears, get someone to pop it. Next step, when it appears, get someone to pop it. As a paladin, I think I can break out of it if I use divine protection, I think it is. I'm not too sure, it's not tested yet, so don't take it for granted on that one. But the bubble does do damage over time unless it's burst, and it needs to be burst quite quickly. Again, in heroic mode, I'd imagine that's more of a problem than it is at the moment. But the idea is these instances do pretty much prepare you for heroic mode. They show you all the details and that. Obviously some bosses will get more attacks or more power. Now the earth elemental will randomly target someone and then do like an earth spike at them. This, as you'll see in a minute, is a bit more difficult to avoid. When you see him swap target, the idea is you move away from the person who's been targeted, and he does that through them. But the problem is that everyone needs to be paying attention to who he's targeting and then move away, etc, etc. I tried to drag him when I saw it come up, just in case, but sometimes it was a caster and it just went straight through them in the background. But it doesn't do a lot of damage, but again, I wonder if heroic mode that'll be ramped up again. More Trogs all over the bloody place. I mean, they're easy enough to dispatch of, so they don't really bother me that much. I've no idea why the Mage Ice blocked it there. Again, I missed that before it came in and someone picked it up at the back, but not really a problem, they're that weak, they go down easily. Now the ice one, the wind one does a tornado. As you can see there, get caught in that, get given a one-way trip into the roof. I completely forgot about this and it did catch someone by surprise at first. But yeah, the tornado will just flick you up and drag you out of combat for a couple of seconds. I think I get caught in this fight, I'm not too sure. But other than that, it's just dodge the tornado, beat him down, simple. Now once you've killed the final one, don't walk down the path, you'll get hit by the boss. The idea is you stand out the way and the boss will take care of everything else. He does a massive attack that kills all the Trogs. Now this boss has a couple of tactics that I will go over now. The main part of this boss is a tank and spank phase. Avoid the, he does like I think it's a shadow kind of move on the ground. You've got to avoid that. Other than that, keep beating on him. He does do a massive AoE that can't really be avoided, so what we found is by giving the priest the blue square, we would all cluster on her. When he started this AoE, we'd cluster on her. She could just do a prayer of him or healing hope or whatever it is, the big AoE heal that priests get, and that kit kept us alive. I popped mine as well. Although I must admit it's pretty weak as a prop paladin. I don't think I bothered this run around. But other than that, I don't think there's anything special you need to be aware of on this guy, but we'll run down. So I zoom my camera out a bit so I can see what I'm doing, pick him up. And for the first part of this fight, he does this arcane, it's not arcane barrage, what's it called? Abyssal barrage, I think it is. It's this one, he channels this AoE at people. Just move out of it. It's typical fire, move out of it, simple as that. And it moves the moment he stops channeling it, so the idea is he'll just fire it at a few people and you've got to move. Again, a stomp that doesn't seem to do much. He's got these shadow orbs going around him, I don't know what they do either. Now this move here is his big AoE, this is what causes most of the problem, so the idea is just stand around the priest. It does about 36,000 damage, I'd say between 36 and 40,000 damage per tick. It's not a lot if you've got, like me, nearly 125k health, but it is a fair bit of damage. Standing by the priest just makes it easier for him or her to heal you and sort the problem out. Once that phase is over, you can just go back to beating on the boss again. It's pretty much just tank him, spank him down to no health. Probably one of the easier bosses in this instance, actually, providing you're aware. You need to make healing as easy as possible for the healer by standing close. Once he's down, that's it. Spread the loot around. I was umming and ahhing on those, but we had another plate error, so I didn't take them. Once you've done him, go back here, catch the teleporter. Now, if you've got the quest, you can go up and visit Bran at the top end. If you haven't got the quest, you can just ignore it. None of these guys had it though, so they're okay. Ah, no, sorry, he's not there anyway. You deal with him at the door, then you kill everything and work your way around. I don't remember him being up there. Now, this lot, there are 4 bosses on this floor now. Each one has different tactics, different adds to pull. With these ones, I find the easiest way to deal with the adds is to take out the tiny little sparks first, then the middle one, then the big one. The big one does enlarge and hit quite hard, but by the time you've got him to that stage, you would have killed all the little adds, which also hit quite hard. It's one of those reverse things where everything seems to hit pretty hard until you take it out. Also, the portal will randomly channel an energy beam across the floor at you. All you got to do is just dodge that, but try not to drag it into everybody else. Now this boss is a bit of an odd one. She does a mirror image ability, however the mirror images are really easy to discern, especially the first one. What will happen, you DPS her down as you would normally. Once you've done enough damage she'll split up. You do also need to kill the little, she spawns these little sparkly constructs as you can see over there. They need to be taken out quite quickly, which I had forgotten about, so it's easy just to get the DPS to run and kill them rather than try and do it myself. After she's done enough damage, she'll split up, as I said, and also she'll do a supernova. Think Edric the Pure, if you've ever fought him, turn away and then it won't affect you. As you notice, the first pulse of that I didn't look away and I took a lot of damage and ended up wandering around like an idiot. I was duly trying to tell the DPS to kill the little ads. This is a problem with a lot of the instances in Cataclysm, is the ads come along and people just tend to ignore them, Wrath of the Lich King style. No one goes, oh hang on, I better pick that up. And it can get a bit confusing and a little bit annoying if you're constantly having to tell the DPS, look, use your common sense, pick up the ads. Anyway, on this first split, kill the one that's got a giant luminous moon above her head. Once you've killed her, they all disappear and go back to normal again. They can't be tanked very well, so you just got DPS them, they just randomly swap targets. Once you've done that, she goes back to being herself. Again, more little constructs spawn. I try and pick them all up as quick as I can. Drag her out the healing circle, which I forget to do until there we go, drag her out. Again, I managed to pick up the little constructs this time, so they're now focusing on me. I can't remember what they're called. I think they're familiars. Celestial familiar, I think they might be called. But they do need to go down quick, and DPS do need to be on their toes when they see them coming and go, ooh, an ad, I'll pick that up, rather than ignore it. Again, a lot of people go, yeah, but it's just a normal. Yes, it is just a normal, but when you come to heroics, if you're doing bad habits like that, then it'll hurt you more than it'll hurt me. In fact, it'll probably hurt everybody just as much, but I've got Guardian of Ancient Kings. Now, she splits, this second split, there is one light and one dark. I've always found DPSing down the one that's light. It seems to work far more effectively than anything else. Ignore the dark one and just beat down the light one. I'm not too sure who marked it with a skull though. But yeah, there you go. She goes down, the other one fades out. Boss comes back, kill the boss, problem solved. I think the idea of that one is just to focus fire on one of them. I don't know if you can get away with just focusing the dark one and it'll work in the same way. I've never really tried it. I know a way that works. I wouldn't experiment unless I was with a guild group, just to see if there are other ways of killing these. Anyway, do enough damage to this one, problem solved, she goes down. Now, there is no particular order in which way you need to kill these guys. I tend to go up and do fire, earth. I think she's fire actually, she might be arcane. I do arcane, earth, chaos I think it is, and then fire. Yeah, 'cause fire is the final boss. She might be meant to be wind, I have no idea with these. They're element based, but that's about all I could tell you. With these ones, I try and fight the nymphs out of the circle and then kill the tentacle, but you can also kill the tentacle first, so the circle disappears. Entirely your call. The spores need to be destroyed though as they come out. And they also spawn little planty plant things that are a bit of a pain in the bum as well, they need to be killed. You see here, this pool wasn't as clean as I would have liked, and I kept getting plants run back and forth because the mage kept trying to shoot them down. But once everyone realised they're all focusing on the same thing, kill it, kill the next one, circle disappears, done. And then kill the spore before it kills anybody else. Now this boss does a couple of things. He'll pop spores out, kill the spores, they turn into poison patches. Fun fact is that if you can position the boss so that he's stood in the poison patch but the DPS aren't, he will take damage from the poison patch as well, which is pretty cool actually. It's quite hard to do, but it's worth it for the extra speed on the kill. He also spawns little seedlings, the seedling pods. Get one of your DPS just to kill them down. You see here I marked it with a skull and I got the rogue to do it. Problem solved. But fingers crossed they're paying attention. If they're not, I was just marking it with a skull and going seed pod. Only one of them really needs to do it, and it's normally easier to have a melee DPS do it rather than a caster, but I don't think anyone really minds. I've only ever had one group of people argue with me on this because it was negligible to DPS, and to me, why are you worrying about your DPS in first of all, in a heroic, second of all, in a dungeon that requires you to do something outside of mash your face across the keyboard? There is extra things to do here. Yes, your DPS will take a hit, I know that. I don't care. I'm not here to judge on your DPS, I'm judging on whether you can do the job and make my life a bit easier as a tank. And there we go, there's our first poison patch. So what I'm going to do is drag him around it and try not to walk through it myself, which I failed at miserably. And once he stops channeling, he walks towards me, and there, he's in the poison patch now, he's taking the damage. Now with the boss down, the next one here is the Chaos one, as I like to call it. I'm not sure whether it is Chaos or not. This one is a bit of an odd one because there was the first time I did this, I think this went alright. The second time I did it after I recorded this is that I got it a bit wrong. These guys here at the beginning will drop down, or they won't drop down anything, they'll just fight. But the guy in the centre, when he comes out, will start placing void circles. If any of the void walkers are in those void circles, you just saw one there, it will heal them to full. Now I didn't spot this the second time round, I think it was. In fact, it might have even been this time. I'll find out in a second. Yeah, this is the time I screwed it up. Pretty much, I kept leaving them in the circles, and I didn't notice the circles at the time. The first time we did this, we just managed to blow them down and move them around. I was moving them around out of force of habit, because I couldn't get everything to hook together, but one of the guys pointed out move them out of the circles, and I was like, oh yeah, derp. So I failed there, but yeah, when you're fighting these guys, drag them around, keep them out of the circles, pick one target and blow it down. Don't keep doing what I'm doing, which is jump the targets around. It annoys everybody. Doesn't matter which order you kill them in, everyone's got cooldowns to use. I've just used Guardian of Ancient Kings there because I was taking a lot of damage. Luckily the priest got me up to full without a problem, and they're dead. Now this boss, I do like this boss for sheer insanity. It's just a lovely boss. When you hit him, you've got a couple of seconds where you can build aggro on him, and then he just wanders off on an attack routine, and when he does the routine, he'll wander to a point, open a portal, wander to the next one, open a portal, they just keep wandering around opening portals and summoning stuff. Through this fight, the DPS have two roles. One is to kill down any of the void seekers that appear. They look like the shades. They need to go down. My job as a tank, sorry, they got to kill the shades and DPS the boss. That's it. That's all their jobs involve, is DPS him, kill the shades, but they must prioritise the shades, otherwise I get overwhelmed. My job is to kill the Wurms, because they don't take much effort at all. I just run over, hammer the righteous a couple of times, throw the shield at them, that's it, they're dead. That's that. And the second part is to pick up the elemental constructs that come out. I think they have a better name than elemental construct. That's a seeker. That's what the DPS should be killing. They need to focus those things down as quick as they can. As you can see, they slow me down and generally hinder me. Oh yeah, stay out the fire as well. He does this big purple AoE fire type element, and he makes those little explosive mines, as you can see there. Now that thing is a void sentinel. That is what I need to tank. And at the end of this, I think I'm tanking about 4 of them. But everyone swapped to the sentinel, and it's just no, ignore the sentinels. DPS need to kill the seekers, need to kill the boss. If they don't, I get overwhelmed after a while. I can quite easily handle the sentinels, and I can quite easily handle the Wurms. But if you start trying to pick up the sentinels and not focus on the seekers, then things get really ugly. Also, as you saw there, the big purple crystals he throws are quite easy to avoid. You just don't be in them when they hit the ground, and you won't get caught in the big poison area. Or you can do what I do, which is stand there while trying to tank 2 things. Noob. Now that's the other thing I forgot that I keep doing here as a tank, which is running forwards with my back to the target. That's not a good idea because I cannot parry and I cannot block. And I can't remember it in a minute, and I'm like, oh hang on, yeah, I should be running backwards. But the thing is, you do get more speed by running forward, so it's kind of a 50-50. You can either run forward and take the extra damage, or you can run backwards a bit slower. It depends. If you can keep them all in the centre, you'd probably save yourself a lot of running around anyway. Which, again, I don't. I kind of drag them around the edge, thinking the portals would open in succession. When they don't, they just open at random. There's some more Wurms, another construct, and there goes the boss. So in the end I got to 3 constructs on that one. I've done it again at a later attempt and ended up with about 5 because the DPS just could not focus on the seekers, and I think we eventually wiped because there were too many seekers out. So yeah, this is a moderately geared DPS group. They know what they're doing. 3 to 4 sentinels I'd imagine would be the max. They don't spawn very quickly. Now this is the fire boss and the final boss of this instance. He works. We haven't got a shaman, so we can't CC or disable elementals. I've got a hammer enchanted with I think it's elemental slaying, which disrupts them, which has a chance to interrupt them. It's quite cool. So I'm just going to rely on that to proc every so often. Also, Holy Wrath is glyph to do elementals. Or is it Dragonkin I glyphed it for? It's got a glyph anyway. I've got that glyph in my tanking spec. Anyway, kill the humanoid, then kill the fire elementals. Every time you kill one, it'll split down into smaller ones. I think it does it twice. So there's the first lot of small ones. Someone did Death and Decay there. I did Consecrate, try and pick them all up. And they break 3 times. So you got the big one, then you get 3 little ones, then you get 3 small ones from each little one. So you get about 6 small ones, I think it is. They're not really overpowering when they get to small though. They just literally, you punch them in the face and they fall over. Now this boss is the final boss of the instance. As I said, it doesn't matter which order you do these top ones in. I've never really made any difference, but I kind of like doing it. I do this guy last because he's the one you need for the achievement in the dungeon. Anyway, the first part is a tank and spank phase. He does summon a fire tornado, move out of it. Simple as that. I mean, again, most of this stuff I didn't know. No one knew how to do this boss, so I kind of picked up as I went along. The fire tornado is pretty easy to dodge. You just step out of the way of it. It seems to go round in a slow pattern. Meteorite, again, I don't know whether there's a trick to Meteorite. I can't really run away with it because I've got the boss on me, so I'm assuming I can eat the hit and everyone else has to just clear out from around me when it comes in. It hasn't killed me, so I haven't discovered if that's wrong or not. The main parts on this fight is the DPS. Look, when he's doing his channeling there, the DPS could easily interrupt that. I couldn't interrupt it, I don't think, at the time, because my Hammer of Justice was on cooldown. Now this is his AoE move that he does. It's pretty much a burn phase. You must just focus on killing him. Don't worry about how much damage you're taking, don't worry about aggro, just burn him down. I think someone tried running away and I had to correct them. It's like, no, you can't run from this one, it's just a burn phase. He amplifies the damage you take from fire damage, so the longer this goes on, the more damage you'll take, and eventually you will die. That's about it with him. Again, my machine froze when I took the video, not too sure why, but he's got Fire Tornado, massive AoE, that's about it. And occasionally the Meteorite, which will fall on your head, which you saw about once there, I think. That's it, boss down, problem solved. And that is the whole of this instance. Now, if you've got the quest from Bran, you can take the elevator up one more floor and he's on the top, and you'll get a little cutscene telling you how to deactivate the laser, etc, etc. But I've already done it now, so that's not in this video. But that's it, that is Halls of Origination. What I'll do is a quick recap on all the bosses and boss abilities, because it took us an hour and a half when I finally worked it out, hence nearly 40 odd minutes of video. It definitely wasn't an easy video. I've been talking for about 2.5 hours because I had to re-edit certain sections and everything else, so yeah, this video took me a long time to put together, and my throat hurts now. But I'll do a quick recap on all the boss abilities, and that should prepare anyone who's coming into this place for the first time. Okay, the first boss we have to deal with is Guardian Anhuur. His main move is the bubble, as you saw earlier. He's the first guy on the video as well, if you want to jump back and see what he was doing again. Main tactic with this guy, pull the levers to break his bubble. Once the bubble is down, someone needs to interrupt him. I thought it broke after taking so much damage, but having done it a couple of times since this video was recorded, I've realised that it's kind of, you've got to interrupt it, it will keep going otherwise, and the more it goes, it will stack a damage buff on you that deals 400 damage to start with, but will stack every 4 seconds to increase the damage. So he really needs to be interrupted as soon as the bubble is down. Tank him facing away from the group to avoid anything shooting out. There's burning light and searing light that he does, which do a fair bit of damage. I think they only really appear in heroic mode, but I have been warned by other DPS while running this to watch out for those and keep them facing away. Standard tank practice is face him away from the group anyway, let them be able to get behind him. The other one you need to look out for is Divine Reckoning, which siphons health from a target party member. However, if they're stood next to someone else, after 8 seconds it will siphon like a chunk of their health as well. So you've really got to watch out, make sure people are spread out, because if too many people are clustered together in the range section when he does that, that's it, he's going to heal himself for a fair whack of health. It's 1500 health from each person. Sorry, 15,000 health from each person according to Wowpedia, so yeah, watch out for that one. Now it's everyone's favourite Marigar looky-likey, Earthrager Ptah. He's a tank and spank for phase 1, but I would recommend the DPS make sure they stand behind him and away from the tank, because he does do a raging smash, which is 150% of his normal melee damage into me and anyone stood next to me. When I say me, refer to as tank. It's pretty much anyone who is the tank will take a lot of damage from that, but any melee DPS stood beside will also take the same amount of damage, which they probably couldn't stand up to very well. The rest of his moves are, as you've seen, Earth Spike pops out of the ground, knocks everybody back. You can't really avoid that because it's pretty quick, it just pops up. The best thing to do is just, if you think one's coming, is to move. I think the ground literally shakes for a couple of seconds before it pops out. Don't worry if you can't though, it's quite hard to dodge, and it doesn't impale you, so it's more of a knockback. Once you get him to 50% health, he will collapse, he'll summon his scarabs and his skeletons. The scarabs can be just DPS down. If you've got a mage with you who can ice block them and blow them all up, simple as that, just focus on getting them down. The tank will pick up the elites, and then once you've got rid of the little ones, you can take on the elites. And that's that, problem solved then. Once you've dealt enough damage, he'll then collapse into the ground, and that's it. And Rafet is our next boss, and this is the guy in the Vault of Light. So after you've killed all the elementals, he's the guy who comes wandering out at the end and decides to pummel you for it. The main things to remember are, when you've killed the last elemental, stay away from the centre area. Just stay where you are on the elemental platform. He'll then walk out, kill all the trogs, and you can then go and engage him. It means you get a controlled pull rather than an accidental whoops I pulled him kind of start. Once that's done, and you've engaged him, his alpha beams need to be moved out of. When he casts them, just you can see him appear underneath you, move out of the way. And her Mega Stance is his AoE. It has a 500 yard range, so you aren't going to be able to run from it very well, so just stand near the priest and wait for it to finish. Priests or healers of any type are just going to have to heal through that. Unfortunately, there's no other way. Next on the list is Isiset, who is an unusual boss from what I've actually learnt and what I've read about her since doing the fight and recording the original footage here. First of all, face away from a supernova, kill the celestial familiars. However, when she splits, each image of her represents a different part of her abilities. If you then kill one of the images, say in this one we killed the one with the moon, that represents astral rain, which is a summons a flurry of stars to fall on the target. It's think of there's a druid move that does the same thing, Star Surge I think it is. It's not Star Surge actually, I can't remember what it is now, but it's the rain of stars kind of move. However, if you kill one of the other ones, you can also reduce her ability to summon or disable her ability to summon the celestial familiars, or to disable her Veil of Sky, the shield that she puts up. Now, I've always been told when I do this one is go for the moon. I don't know whether that does more damage over time or anything, but just be aware, it might be worth reading up on Wowpedia on that one to have... It's quite complex to explain, but it's pretty much that whichever one you destroy, she will lose that ability, but her other two abilities will increase in strength. And the same goes again when she splits at the end, and you saw I had a dark and a light one. Again, one of those is the shield, the other one must be the summon familiars, which we then blew the summon familiars away, so all she had left really was the shield, which makes her stronger yet again. It makes her shield stronger, which didn't really make much difference because we cracked through that and killed her. So it's worth knowing that there is more to that fight than meets the eye. Amune is the healing the plant-based boss that you saw at the Seat of Life. He's pretty much a tank and spank fight. Kill the seedling pods when they appear, kill the spores when they appear, and drag the boss into his like the death AoE of the spore, so to speak, to do additional damage. That's about it. Don't stand in it yourself, and kill the seedlings is probably the main thing, because if he gets too many out, they start healing him, which can be a bit of a problem. Setesh is definitely one of my more favourite bosses here. His abilities, pretty much, he's untankable, so once you've triggered off the event you can just leave him running around in the background. DPS will need to focus down the Void Seekers. The reason for that is that they will do an anti-magic prison, which when channeled will trap someone in a box. They can't do anything while they're trapped, so you need to make sure they don't get that cast off. If you see one casting it and you're not going to kill it in time, interrupt it. They must be shut down. As a tank, you pretty much pick up the Void Sentinels, kill the Wurms. As a DPS, kill the Void Seekers, then switch immediately back to Setesh and continue blowing the crap out of him. Once you've done enough damage, that's it, game over for him. Raj is the final boss of the encounter now. He's also classed as the final boss of the dungeon, so you can get the achievement by killing him first and not bothering with the others, but I wouldn't recommend it. Not only would it make you unpopular, you'll miss a fair bit of loot and some rather nice bits that you can get. When you deal with Raj, it's pretty much, he will cast Summon Sun Orb, which is the one I called a meteor, which was the big thing that came slamming down out of the sky. That can be interrupted. I didn't know this at the time, but if you can interrupt it, you'll save a lot of people a lot of grief, because it does a bit of knockback as well, if I remember correctly. The rest of his moves pretty much are attacking. There's one called Inferno Leap that I've not seen yet. I'm not sure whether this is a heroic mode only one, but apparently he'll leap onto someone and do damage, but it looks like it'll be only in a heroic mode. Blessing of the Sun is the big central AoE he's got. If he gets that, just stand near your healer and do a burn phase. Just blow as much damage into him as humanly possible. Avoid the Fire Tornado, which is called Solar Wind, and just generally spread out for this boss. It's quite simply do as much damage as possible when he does his great big Blessing of the Sun. Keep your cooldowns for that part. and just keep doing consistent damage through the rest of the fight and you should be fine. Interrupts are a must though really. If you want to avoid getting hit by the sun orb, just shut them down as quickly as possible. Anyway, and with that I will leave that there and call this a day. So any questions you can always leave me a message on my YouTube page. Other than that, I wish you the best of luck with your adventures into Halls of Origination. My name is Metroid2K and this has been Pugwatch.